invest in properties. And so that's exactly what Trump was doing, and so he gets all the tax benefits from it.
Correct.
So many people come to this country because they want to live the American dream of buying their house, going to a job, working paycheck to paycheck, going to school, when in reality, that's a nightmare.
And then what happens if they lose their job?
They lose all security they were promised, and they lose everything, and they don't have anything to provide for their family either.
So what is your brain? I mean, you're a very smart young lady, but now your brain is a think, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, when I talk to people about financial education, well, right now, we're going to talk about, there's another issue, is Bitcoin, the dollar, and gold. Which one is better? I love real estate, again, because it's debt. I use debt to buy real estate. And everybody else is saying, get out of debt, right? I love debt.
Yeah.
Trump loves debt. He's a king of debt. I'm in debt about $600 million. The average person cannot pay for their credit card debt.
Wow.
That's how tragic it is. And he's educated. I'm talking about educated people.
Yeah.
Right? And then this year, I get tax breaks because I have employees. This will be another subject going down with millennial money. But if you have a job, you're taxed. If you hire employees, they give you tax breaks. Look at right now, Amazon is looking for a new home. Every government wants to give them a home. You know, please move to Indiana, please move to Canada. Why? Because they'll bring in employees, and employees pay the tax.
Yeah.
It's the same as Tesla. They got, I think, 50 billion or something from the state of Nevada because they bring in employees. So that's why when your teacher says you go to school to get a job, you say, I think I'll think a little bit differently this time. Now, you need a job in interim, but you want a job for the experience. That's the difference. So the reason Rich Dad's lesson number one is rich don't work for money is I never want a paycheck. I want to use debt, and I don't want to pay tax. I pay some tax, but minimum tax. But I want to accumulate this so I have cash flow. Anything you want to say? Any questions on that?
No, I'm happy because I can see both sides. I can see the employee side and the entrepreneur side. And thankfully, because I work in this company, I'm not forced to work a regular 9 to 5 job. I'm able to actually work on my own projects, and it's incentivized that we actually do become entrepreneurs.
Our company encourages everybody to come here, right? So we don't have a 401k, do we?
No.
We don't have a retirement plan for you, do you? That keeps you motivated, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So what would you say to your friends or your fellow millennials about why the rich don't work for money?
I would tell them that they really, truly need to educate themselves, because to work for money is completely ridiculous. While taxes are increasing and the inflation is increasing, it doesn't make any sense to be working from paycheck to paycheck. The rich don't work for money. The money works for them.
Or being afraid of being fired.
Yeah.
Or losing your pension. Did you realize that's the biggest terror of most people? I might lose my pension too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad that it's one of the biggest fears of everybody on a daily basis, whether they're going to get fired or not. And just seeing that my dad previously and my mother were both scared of not being able to support our family, and now, thankfully, because they followed your philosophy, we have all the freedom in the world.
And your mother's a real estate agent. She's an investor and real estate agent.
Yeah.
And she can help you.
Yeah, exactly. So both of them are my team, and the day tomorrow, if I do get fired, I have my properties to live off of. Yeah. So.
And you do too good a job for us to fire you. But
exactly.
That's good.
No, I work hard here.
Are you afraid of being? If you make a mistake in this company, are you fired?
No, mistakes are actually encouraged. Coming from a traditional work system where we are punished for it, and then coming to this one where they're actually incentivized because we learn from them, it's amazing.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you have to admit you made a mistake.
Yeah,
you cover up the mistake, you're fired.
Yeah, exactly. So Sarah, my supervisor, whenever, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I can't believe I messed up. She's like, no, it's okay. We learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
And that's
our culture here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So thank you. So the rich don't work for what?
Money.
And for those of you at home, find a friend and discuss this. Thank you. Here with Alexandra, and we're doing another Millennial Money. And very excited about this program, so thank you for tuning in. This will be one of 10, and we don't know which order they're coming in. So What are some of your questions when people say get out of debt? What comes to your mind?
When people say get out of debt, I think about credit card debt, the student loan debt, all that negative debt that people use for shopping and personal things.
And is your idea of debt good or bad?
I have a very negative idea or connotation towards debt, and that's because that's what we were taught in the school system and the traditional education system, that it's not so great. But because I work here and I have these resources and I've gone to your seminars, I understand that debt can be powerful and it can be used in a good way and it could generate you money.
So for those listening, debt is a four-letter word for most people. There are many people in my position, so-called financial gurus, who say live totally debt-free. And there's other people who say cut up your credit cards. And, that's good advice for certain types of people. So you should definitely cut up your credit cards if you don't know, you can't control your spending. You should definitely. But I don't know how people live without credit cards. I don't know how you can check into a hotel, rent a car, or go shopping and go out for dinner, but you should cut up your credit cards if you're a shopaholic. That's good advice. And the other thing about debt, there's good debt and bad debt. So this is going to be the lesson today, is there's good debt and bad debt. And if you only have bad debt, which I classify student loan debt as bad debt, the main reason it's bad debt is because it's the worst possible type of debt. You see, if I get into trouble as a businessman with debt, I can declare bankruptcy and I'm clean. But the trouble with student loan debt, you can't do that. It hangs around your neck for the rest of your life. So if you're a student, you shouldn't take on student loan debt unless you absolutely 100% guaranteed that you will commit to graduating. So have you seen a lot of kids drop out of school?
Oh, yeah.
And so the problem with student loan debt is a person has to know what are they going to study. I have two friends, they're both medical doctors, and they came out of school with $500,000 in medical debt, student loan debt, but they paid it off in 5 years because they're medical doctors. They had high-paying jobs, and so they delayed having families and all this, and their whole objective was to pay for becoming a doctor. But I think you have friends who have no idea what they're going to school for.
Yeah, so I have this friend and she's changed her major like 3 different times, from business to now nursing, and it's a lot of money and she still has no idea that what she wants to do. And she tells me, she's like, Alex, I want to change my major from nursing, but I'm already practically done and I can't pay back this debt. So she's stuck with the nursing career and she doesn't even like it.
When I was your age, like I think I said earlier, is that my classmates were making like $110,000, $120,000 a year, which is not much money. Mm-hmm. But for my generation, if I made $20,000, that was a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? It was just out of proportion. So we were the highest paid graduates in the world, and my starting pay was about $47,000 a year. My classmates were making 3 times as much as me. But it's a choice we make. I didn't really want to do what they did.
Yeah.
So I had to join a labor union. As ship's officers, we had to join the MMMP, Masters, Mates, and Pilots, which meant we were labor union guys. So labor union guys make more money. And nothing personal, but I don't want to be a union member. So I joined Standard Oil of California as a shipping officer, and then I didn't have to join the labor union. But I only got $47,000 a year. That was the difference. The difference is Standard Oil is still sailing, and a lot of those labor union jobs are gone because the pay got too high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's always a good and bad, and it's hard to understand that when you're younger. But I knew when I was 22 years old, I didn't care if they paid me $100,000 a year. I wasn't going to join a union. It was just principle. My father, poor dad, was head of the teachers union. And from what I saw, I didn't want to be a teacher, and I didn't want to be a union member. So it was kind of youthful exuberance on things. Okay? But anyway, today it's harder because you don't know what is this mysterious high-paying job. And even lawyers today are having a hard time because they don't need that many lawyers, which is a good thing. And there's artificial intelligence, which is replacing a lot of the high-end jobs. Like even accountants today, they don't need accountants because artificial intelligence can do a lot of the work for them. So that's why for your generation, student loan debt, I would say, is possibly one of the most important things you need to decide before you take on the debt. And number one, are you going to graduate? And number two, what are you going to graduate as?
Exactly.
Right? Any comments on that? Anything you want to talk about?
So my dream and passion has always been to be an entrepreneur. But when I started studying it, I told my dad it was the last thing I would ever do because I thought that what they were teaching me was what I was going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. But these teachers aren't actually practicing what they're teaching. And so they give you this wrong conception of what you're studying. And reality is that traditional education, it's obsolete. What mattered back then does not apply to how you're going to run your business now.
You know, today, if I was in your position, I was pretty clear when I was about 15, I wanted to sail the seas. I sailed huge ships, throughout the world. But that was a dream of a kid. And by the time I was 22, I was tired of it. I didn't want to sail the world anymore. So I understand, what it's like to keep, what they call it is finding your way in life, right?
Yeah.
That's not easy. Mm-hmm. So I commend you guys, and that's why we're doing the Millennial Money, is because as these programs progress, you're going to find out, in my opinion, you guys have a harder road to go through than I did. For me, it was really easy. There was a lot of jobs, economy was booming and all this, and it was easier. So you guys have got to be smarter. Okay, so as far as the subject of debt, there's good debt and bad debt. Again, it goes back to the financial statement. Income, expense, asset, liability. So debt falls in here. So let's say I'm going to buy, everybody says I'm going to buy a house. Everybody says my house is an asset. That's not true. Your house is a liability. I don't care if you have no debt on it or not. A house is a liability. Same as if you have a car. A car is a liability. And the reason for that is, as we talked about earlier, the 6 words that are basics of financial education, financial intelligence: income, expense, asset, liability. And the 2 other words are cash flow. So when you look at the average person, they have a job, money comes in here, they pay for their house, and the money goes to a bank through a mortgage. So it's not an asset because the cash is flowing out. So it's a liability. So the definition of liability, does it take money from your pocket? And for an asset, does it put money in your pocket? So when I have a rental property here, it puts money in my pocket. So if I live in the house, it's a liability, because even if I have no debt on it, I still have taxes, depreciation, repairs, and upkeep, insurance, and all this. When I rent a property, I've done a good job buying it and structuring it. Every month, it sends me money. So I started off when I was 25. I had a little 1-bedroom condo, and it put $25 in my pocket. It was a start. So this was good debt. You say the debt also went out and paid, but it also put $25 in my pocket. So net, I was making money from my little house. So today, my wife and I own 6,500 of them. And every month, 6,500 houses put money in my pocket. My people who live in them love me and all this because they have a place to live. But all of this comes from debt. So they're 100% finance here. It's all debt. So this is good debt. And what makes it good debt are the 2 most important words: cash flow. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Any comments on this?
So numerous people my age actually think debt is horrible. And you just showed us a perfect example of cash flow and how debt can generate income. And many entrepreneurs use this formula to make money on a day-to-day basis.
So what most people do is they have student loan debt, SL, and that debt is going out this way. You know, it doesn't put any money in your pocket. You can say, well, I have a job. Well, that's still you working for it. So I don't work for any of this money here. I do this job once, set the deal up. Every year I add more and more and more of it. I'm borrowing money from here. It's coming here and going this way. So the debt is putting money in my pocket, and bad debt is taking money from my pocket. So the problem is, if you're going to use debt, you've got to be much smarter than this person here. You've got to be very, very smart. That's why I took real estate classes when I was 25, and I've never stopped taking real estate classes. Because you buy a piece of real estate and you make a mistake, this turns into a liability. If I get the renter leaves the place, this goes here that fast, and the cash flows that way. It's going out of my pocket. So it has nothing to do with real estate. It has nothing to do with the car. It has to do with student loan. It has to do with these two words here. So good debt, again, is debt when I borrow for this and it puts money in my pocket. If I had a car and I borrowed money from it and somebody rented for me as an Uber driver or something and it put money in my pocket, it would be an asset. My wife and I have a boat, and most boats lose money, but our boat makes money because it's in a charter. People rent my boat all the time. So it has nothing to do whether it's a boat, student loan debt, a house, a car, or whatever. It has to do with these two words here. And so most of the time, you've had accounting classes. They don't talk much about this, do they?
This is something they never mentioned to me in college.
Why is that, you think?
Like you mentioned before, there's people that are actually teaching students something that they don't apply in their daily life, something that they barely have knowledge about and they only learn through a textbook.
But you've taken accounting classes, right?
Yeah, exactly. I did.
Made A's in it?
Well, I did finally get a high grade the second time around, but that was because I had a real accountant teaching me the real applications of accounting as opposed to a fake teacher, right? So your advisor, Tom Wheelwright, taught me in 1 hour what I could have learned the entire semester with this one teacher that wasn't even an accountant in his real life.
A big lesson for you is that it's nothing to do with the house, the car, the student loan. It has to do with where's the cash flowing. If the cash is flowing into your income statement, into your pocket, it's an asset. It's good debt. But if it's taking money from your pocket, it's bad debt. About debt, there's good debt and bad debt. Any comments on that?
Well, I think just like Trump, you know how to apply the rules of debt, and he calls himself the king of debt, right?
If you're going to be successful, like whether you're an employee or entrepreneur, you've got to control the direction of your cash flow. So look at most people here. We've talked about it earlier. They get a job and the cash flows out here, it goes to the government. Called taxes. Okay. Trump doesn't do this. I don't do this legally. The reason is because we're entrepreneurs, not employees. Employees have this, entrepreneurs don't. Because it's a type of asset. Any other thing?
I'm good.
So what would you like to say to the young millennials listening to this?
I'd say don't be afraid of debt. And if you know how to use it, use it.
Good debt puts
money in your pocket.
Could a credit card be good debt?
Well, it just depends what you spend the money on, right? So if you spent it on something that's going to produce income for you, like an asset, then it's good debt. But if you spend it on, let's say, a jacket that you wanted from Burberry, then it's not.
First property there, it was in Maui, Hawaii in the 1970s. I bought it with a credit card.
Wow.
Property was $18,000, my first, but I've taken several real estate classes. And so I knew what to look for. I found this one property. It took a long time. When I found it, I just broke out my credit card and bought it, and it put $25 in my pocket. It went from this little dinky little thing, this was years ago, $25. It was good debt. I wish I had never sold it. It was a big mistake to sell it, because today it's probably worth $400,000 or $500,000. And that's a whole nother story. That's why I don't flip properties. I don't like to do that stuff. So anything else? So good debt, what?
Money in your pocket.
Bad debt, what?
It takes money out of your pocket.
That's all there is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, we're here talking to Miss Alex, and we're also talking about financial education for millennials and money. And I'm glad she's asking me when she's very young, because one of the biggest mistakes, I still hear it today from young people, oh, I don't have to worry because I'm still
young.
Yeah, and that is death to most people, because eventually you get old and then you're not young again. So it's a way of saying, when we talk about assets and liabilities, one of the most important things you have in your life is time. It's one of your greatest assets, or it's your liability. And being, I just turned 70, and I have friends who have nothing. I mean, they have zero. Now they've made a lot of money, but they have nothing here. They have nice houses, nice cars, 16 wives, 19 kids. I don't know what they have, but you know what I mean? And being young is great, except it can be a liability to you. Because when you're young, you're just having a lot of fun and life's exciting, it's new. So, at the time, but the thing is, this is the lesson today, is so many people spend their time focusing here. They want to make a lot of money. And I can hear it in their words. They say, oh, I want a career. This is career. Okay, or I'm going to start my own business. And this is the chart here, which we've seen. This is the cash flow quadrant, book number 2. E is employee. S is small business, self-employed, or a specialist like a doctor, a lawyer, web designer. B is big business, 500 employees or more. And I is professional investor. So when I was your age, I knew I wanted to get here. This takes time. This is the hardest, This is where the big mega bucks are. And Kim and I are here. And the money is massive. But it takes time to get there. The big mistake I see young people make is they focus here. And the words are, I want to do what I love. That's the track. You see, in real life, sometimes you have to do what you hate. Like, people think I like to write books. I hate writing books. But it fills my purpose in life. It's not my passion, my purpose in life. Because my purpose was to get here. A lot of these guys get trapped here doing what they love. And as we've talked about on earlier episodes of this thing, these guys pay the highest taxes. 40% here, 60% in taxes here, 20% here, and then 0% here. So when I was before my 20s, I knew I wanted to go there, and it wasn't doing what I loved. I had to learn what I didn't want to learn. I had sometimes to do what I hated. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about debt. I had to take classes. I had to learn about insurance. So I was doing a lot of things I hated doing so I could come over here. These guys never do this because they live their passion. I want my passion. The difference in passion is greedy. Purpose is for other people. So my purpose was to come over here so I could serve more people. Okay. So I have employees here and all this. I don't buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, because as a professional investor, I can create my own assets. Okay. Any comments, anything so far?
Yeah, if you ask anyone, they all say they want to do what they love.
And they're talking about here. And this is where you get taxed.
Yeah.
Like, coming here, I was doing fine over here because I didn't have much money. Because the government takes all your money anyway, right?
Yeah.
40% in taxes. Because nobody's going to sue you. You come over here, they sue you. Okay? So I had to learn about lawsuits. I hated it, but I learned it. So the big mistake for young people is I'm going to do what I love, which is fine over here. But what do you love the most? Well, I loved my freedom. And I know it sounds greedy, but I love making money. I'd rather have a lot of money than no money. I've been both. I've been broke, I've been down, everything, but I'd rather have a lot of money. So it was worth my purpose to get over here. The big mistakes I see young people making is here. You know, they think about what they want to do, what they love. And what I'm saying to you, the millennials right now, invest in what you love. There's a very big difference. In other words, think about this side first. Most young people, or should I say, short-sighted people, they think this is it or this is it. But this is the one here. So when I was your age, I knew that the assets I wanted to acquire, the richest people own businesses. Over here, these guys are small business, self-employed. You're self-employed if you can't stop working. I stopped working years ago because I have businesses. Very big difference. It was painful, but I got there. So number one is a business. So when I was in my 20s, I knew I was going to do what it would take to school, study, learn about taxes, debt, insurance, accounting, lawsuits, and all this through business. Next is real estate. I love real estate. But most people can't do what I do because they don't have a business. It's catch-22. They don't have enough money to get over here. Your mom just made that switch because she has other people's money. Okay?
Yeah.
So the reason I make more money is because it's not what I'm doing what I love. I do sometimes what I hate so I can have the assets that I love. I love having a business. You know, if I didn't have a business, you wouldn't be here. Darren wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have a CEO and president. I wouldn't have accountants. I wouldn't have attorneys. So the business affords me the lifestyle I want. And then I invest in real estate. I've never gone past a piece of land or a building I did not love. And then what most people invest in from there is paper. And that's fine. That's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, savings, ETFs. Not my game. I don't love it. I actually hate it. But these guys, it's perfect for them to have paper, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, and all that, because they're focused over here. They want to do what they love. They want to climb the ladder. They want their career. They want this. I want to become president. You know, that's not what I wanted. I want to be a football star. But this is for the middle class here. That's fine. You can get rich here too. I just don't like it. It's not exciting to me. And then the last one are commodities. And the four basic commodities, a lot of commodities like food. Farmers get rich, they provide food, which is good. I invest in food. I invest in avocado farms to provide food. Oil, gold, silver. I love those things. I love avocados, you know.
I love avocados.
Yeah, I know. So I'm doing what I love. I love trees. I love plants, you know, things like this. So I'm doing what I love here, here, and here. I don't like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, 401ks, IRAs. I think it doesn't excite me, you know. It just doesn't. This excites me. So I invest in what I love rather than do what I love. And these guys do what they love, but most of them never get over here. And this is like Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg, Bezos of Amazon, and they have all the money in the world. That was my plan. Any comments, any questions on that?
So as you mentioned, a lot of people are talking about how they want to do what they love, right? And I think you have a very valid point on investing in what you love. Because a lot of people, just to say that they're entrepreneurs or investing, they're investing in the whole Bitcoin outrage and the cryptocurrencies. And I felt like I wasn't actually pursuing what I loved, or I was falling off the wagon because I wasn't really interested in Bitcoin. But I realized that that's just not my thing. I'm not investing in what I love if I'm doing that in Bitcoin. What I want to do is invest in real estate. So I love looking at properties. I love looking at houses, fixer-uppers, and looking at the numbers. That's my passion. Maybe I got it from my mom, who knows, but Bitcoin isn't my thing. So I have no reason to feel like I'm not doing what I love just because I'm not investing in Bitcoin.
And that's kind of the attitude. In my world, I said, I see people, they chase shiny objects. And what a shiny object means is, you know, when you're fishing, you throw a lure out, and this little shiny object goes, and the fish comes and where they jump in. That's what most people do. Bitcoin today is a shiny object. I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money in it, but most people are chasing shiny objects. They want to make money. They're not building an asset here. The reason they don't do it here, this is the highest risk. Now, this is what I know. The higher the risk, the more education it takes. For example, if I wanted to learn, and I flew, if I wanted to just fly my little Cessna 172 around the place, not much risk in that. But when I had to go to Vietnam to fly, the risk went up. I had to study harder, become better, work harder at it. The reason most people stay in paper, 401ks, IRAs, and chasing shiny objects like Bitcoin is because they don't want to take the risk here. They're huge. You've got to study. That's why we have Rich Dad's education, Rich Dad's coaching. All of you guys are allowed to take courses and all this. If you come here, it takes no intelligence to be here. It takes no intelligence to buy Bitcoin. I mean, I have four Bitcoin, no, 5 Bitcoin. It didn't take, I don't have to do anything. Over here, I have to know a lot. Over here, I have to know a lot. I have to study. So if you want to chase shiny objects like the stock market and all that, you can get rich there. It's really easy to get in here. It's really hard here. Any comments, any questions? Does it make sense? They're chasing shiny objects.
So I do agree with you when you talk about Bitcoin being a shiny object that everybody's chasing, right? And one of my favorite stories that you've told is about your mentor, Frank, when he sent you to Peru so you could learn a valuable lesson about maybe something that wasn't such a shiny object and turned into be, because shiny objects change every day.
So I wanted to learn about, they have ICOs, initial coin offerings. I wanted to learn about IPOs, initial public offering. And it's how you take a business and turn it into paper. You turn it into stock. So I went to see my friend Frank, who was hardcore here. I don't know how many companies he started taking public. And I said, Frank, and he didn't know me from Adam. I said, I want to learn to do an IPO. And he goes, yeah, you and everybody else. He says, most guys don't have it. They don't have the guts. They don't have the determination. And they're wimps. I said, I want to learn. He says, how bad? This is up here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I said, badly. He says, okay, this is Wednesday. Be in Lima, Peru on Saturday. I went, on Saturday? And we were shooting our video for the cash flow game, He says, how bad do you want it? I said, badly. He says, you meet my president in Lima. Frank never traveled. You meet my president in Lima, and I'll find out how bad you want it. So that was Wednesday. Wednesday night, I was on a plane to Lima, Peru. I had to pay full boat. I paid my own way. Most employees can't stand that because they don't have any money. I flew into Lima, Peru. I went to look at 3 gold mines. And with Frank's president, it was an experience and an education I would never have if I didn't show up. It cost me probably $15,000 to $20,000 just for airfare on that thing. I get back on Tuesday to talk to Frank, and I said, Frank, there's nothing there. He says, I could have told you that. So why'd you send me? I want to find how badly you want to learn. Just most people don't have it. They want a job, they want job security, they want a paycheck, they want a 401k. And that's why they don't get to come here. That's why they don't get to come over here. Nothing right or wrong, I don't ever want to be here. I knew when I was your age I wanted to come here, but the higher the risk, the higher the returns, but also the higher dedication, education, and study you have to go through. So today, and I'm making millions and millions, I make more in a day than many people make in a lifetime. But it was worth it. Did I lose? Sometimes, yes, but it was worth it. You go to school here, you take no risk. That's why my poor dad was poor. He didn't like to make mistakes. Okay.
I love that story, Robert. Thank you for sharing it.
I'll leave you one last word that's very, very important for people to understand at a young age. And the word is called liquidity. The reason this is better for most people is because it's liquid. You can buy a stock, you make a mistake, you get out. You buy an ETF, you make a mistake, you get out. It's good, it's important. The moment you go into real estate, you're not liquid. That's why you got to be smarter going in, because if you make a mistake, you can't get out. You buy a bad piece of property, you write it down. And the same as businesses, you're in there, you're solid, you can't get out. Like if Rich Dad's gotten in trouble, with money, and all businesses are, I can't quit. Employees just quit and they leave. They run like little rats, But if you're in here or here, you can't get out. So that's why liquidity is crucial. It's very important, which means that's why Rich Dad's coaching, Rich Dad's education, with all our programs and all this. But most people are not willing to do this study because they want to do what they love, rather invest and acquire what they love. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, totally.
So stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, savings are good because they're liquid. You make a mistake and get out. These things, hard to get out of, including gold. Gold's hard to get out of sometimes. Gold's more liquid than this. Oil is tough to get out of. You make a mistake there, you're going to ride that baby down, Silver's pretty easy. But the word is liquidity. The less liquid, the higher your financial IQ. You've got to be so much smarter. And most people, they have it. They have that ability to be that smart, but they rather do what they love rather than invest in what they love. Got it?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Robert. And I also want to give you thanks for sharing this topic on investing in what you love, because I hope that this can be a guidance for every millennial out there, as opposed to what we're traditionally taught in doing what you love.
Welcome back. It's Robert Kiyosaki with my dear friend's daughter here, Alexa. And we're talking about millennials and money, and we've gone through some lessons. I don't know how many anymore, but let's continue on with another lesson here. And so we were talking about your assets and liabilities, right?
Yeah.
And when you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when I said your house is not an asset, what did you think?
Well, I think that's a conception that many people believe. But as you demonstrated at the last seminar that we went to in Argentina, my mom had her properties and she converted them into assets.
Correct.
I think it just depends on what you do with it, and it would be great if you could show us how to turn your house into an asset.
It's really fundamental. So if I could go back, I probably covered it earlier, but it's a crucial question. And this is what financial education and financial literacy really is. Again, it starts with a financial statement. And I would say probably 95% of all college graduates don't know what a financial statement is. You took an accounting course, right?
Yeah, I did.
And I did parts of this. But I say to young people like you, there's 6 basic words to financial literacy and financial education. And the 6 words, again, are income, expense, asset, liability. See, I don't really care about my FICO score. A FICO score just basically registers, are you trustworthy with borrowing money? But a bank will never say, I borrow in the hundreds of millions of dollars. A FICO score not going to get me there, okay? And so it's kind of a ruse. I mean, it's important, but not for me. So these are the 4 words, income, expense, asset, liability. And the last 2 words are the words cash flow. And that's why the game is called cash flow. And the secret to being rich is not a college education, but can you control cash flow? And this is what cash flowing looks like. So this here, I need this, income, expense, asset, liability. Again, this is, you get a job. And this was my poor dad, go to school, get a job, get your PhD. And so this here is cash flow. So the income comes in and it goes out this way. First line of expense is tax. So this is a poor person's cash flow pattern. It's not how much money you make. Most people, I don't care if you have a PhD or no school at all, but they can't control the cash flowing out through their expenses. And so that's why people like Susie Orman say, cut up your credit cards, live below your means, because you're a spendaholic. So that's a poor person. This is a middle class person's cash flow pattern. And this is where the house comes in. First thing, most kids do when they get pay raise or that, they buy themselves a bigger house. Oh, my house is an asset. Now, who tells you that? Your real estate agent, of course.
Yeah.
Right? Because they want to give you this false sense of security while you're getting screwed.
Exactly.
But when you look at what happens with a house, a personal residence, something I live in, the money comes in, it goes out, and this is middle class, but it also goes out through a mortgage payments. Oh, but I don't have a mortgage. You still have taxes. You still, Hawaii just raised the property taxes on me, which is probably what I'm going to sell. I'm going to get out of Hawaii. But you have taxes and you have upkeep. So money's always flowing out. So that's why your house is not an asset, is because it's taking money from your pocket. So very simply said, assets put money in my pocket, liabilities take money from my pocket. And then this here is, so I'm not saying don't buy a house, but here is a house. And I started when I was 25, bought my first house, and it was an apartment, it was an investment property. I didn't live in it, I rented it out, and it put money in my pocket. So very simple, the definition of asset and liability is not the house or this, it's cash flow. Where is the cash flowing? So as a young person, and to all millennials, or if you're old, financial intelligence is the ability to control cash flow. And that's what they don't teach you at school. They tell you to go to school, get a job. First thing is tax. You'll pay, most of your money will go out through taxes in your lifetime. And then they tell you to buy a house and a car. A car is an asset. No, a car is a liability. You got insurance, gas, upkeep, and all this. Now, if you buy a taxi car, it could be an asset. It's cash flow. And that's very simply it. So this is a poor person. Money goes out. There's a lot. We just interviewed some National Football League players who make millions of dollars in their 20s. And most of them are broke in 2 years because they can't control cash flow. Intelligence, IQ, is can you control cash flow? Not your college degree. College degrees are important, but they're not going to teach you this. So the cash flow game trains you over and over and over and over again to get your money in here to get cash flow this way. So I started with this. Cost me $18,000. I paid for the credit card and I put $25 in my pocket. Okay. It's an infinite return because the cash flow paid for the mortgage, it paid the expenses, pays the operating costs, and I still made $25. Kim's first deal was the same. Hers wasn't $18,000, it was $50,000, $45,000. And they put $25 in her pocket. But Kim now owns 6,500 rental properties, and she pays no tax because the income comes from here. If you have a job, you pay tax, but the rich get richer because when you have asset income, taxes are less. You can get it down to zero if you want. But that's financial intelligence, but can you control cash flow? Okay? So say it again, assets what?
Assets put money into your pocket, liabilities take money out of your pocket.
And so as a young person, you just focus on that. So when you're buying a new house, you got to say, is this going to take money or put money? You buy an apartment house, is it going to take money or put money? That's it. It's cash flow. Six most important words for financial intelligence and IQ is income, expense, asset, liability, but it's really cash flow. Now, if I could bring up a more horrible subject, is do you think people can be assets or liabilities?
I think they could be both, to be honest.
So for most young people, they fall in love, they get married, they have kids. Is a child an asset or liability?
A child is definitely a liability.
I'm not saying don't have kids, but you got to think the kid is expensive, and they don't get cheaper. They get more expensive every year. then they go to college, and then it gets even more expensive. So a human being, and that sounds horrible to all the socialists and communists out there, but the fact is, kids cost money. But as an old guy, I want you to think about this. As I get older, as people get older, family members become liabilities. So I have a friend whose mother, thank God she had long-term, I don't know what they call it, but they just canceled it on her. She can go to a old age home, and I think the price is $18,000 a month. So that if, as a young person, as your parents get older, the question is, can I afford to spend $20,000 a month on my mom or my dad's long-term health care? Yes or no?
No, not right now.
No. So, and this is going to happen to my generation. Many people don't realize, but their brothers or sisters' kids and all this become liabilities for them. So as a person is fairly well off, I'm and Kim and my friends are thinking about two-legged liabilities. So I know today that if my sisters become ill, I'm the one with the money, and it's my responsibility to pay for them. Same as my brothers and their kids. So these are things that people don't think about a lot of times, is what happens not only as they grow up, but what happens as they age. Statistics show the average person, like my generation, let's have $1 million. 80% of that $1 million will be gone the last 2 years of life, because medical expenses go through the roof. And today insurance companies are canceling, I forget the name of it, but my friend's mother, it was just canceled. So he doesn't have $18,000 a month. So he had to bring his mother into his house and create another room and all this. He said, well, I love her, what she does, but she's a big liability. And all he had was savings. So the savings are being depleted going out this way. Okay, so with your question about houses and people, but people are assets and liabilities. For most people with our favorite subject, a 401k is an asset or liability.
From what I've learned from you, it's definitely a liability.
Or an IRA or a pension, because it's always going out this way. There's no guarantee it'll be there. So this is the basic of financial intelligence, financial literacy, stuff like this. Another thing about people is you have a bad advisor, like a bad financial planner or a crook, or a business partner that's a crook, a wife that's a crook and all that. There could be human liabilities. I have two friends right now who just joined the $1 Million Club. They married beautiful women, got divorced, and the woman is now costing $1 million a year in alimony. So their beautiful wife and the child support, it's $1 million going. And she's only 40 years old, so she has a whole pile of boyfriends, but it's costing him $1 million a year for her boyfriends. I said, I want to be her boyfriend. Not really,
Oh my
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Financial IQ is, can you control cash flow? IQ means how big a problem can you solve? So if, like my friend whose mother is now costing him $18,000 a month, well, thank God he has about $100,000 in savings. But in 1 year, it's gone.
Yeah.
That's not high IQ. But for myself, $18,000 a month, I can go make that much cash flow pretty easily.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're like in your 20s, there's something, well, how am I going to make, let's say, by the time you're probably $100,000 a month to take care of my parents? Because like it or not, it's cash flow and they become liabilities. And the problem is getting worse because the bond markets are not providing income. So many insurance companies have to renege on their promises to provide the cash flow to take care of our loved ones. The same as medical.
Wow.
And so that's why when people say, I'm going to go out on my own and do all these things, they're kind of doing what they love, which is good. But they've really got to think about how many liabilities do they have. It's not just your rent, it's your family. And so for me and for Kim, we have family members, but they're liabilities. So that's why we stay over here. Hopefully nothing will go wrong. But if one of my sisters got ill and she needs $100,000 a month, at least I can provide it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they go indigent, whatever they call it. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
No, thank you for sharing so much about this content and all this information that's going to be super valuable for all my friends and all the millennials out there just like me.
So I have two friends who are now in the $1 million a year club. It doesn't mean they're making $1 million. It's their wives are taking $1 million a year out of their pocket and their kids and all this. And I go, you should have thought about that 20 years ago. But you don't, because you're in love and you're going to have kids and you're going to make it together. But your parents are great role models. So once again, there's 6 words you have to know and be masters of: income, expense, asset, liability, cash flow. You can control cash flow. That's financial intelligence, financial IQ, and financial literacy. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. With Robert Kiyosaki, we're into the next millennial money lesson, or money and millennial lesson, here with Alexandra Gonzalez and Robert Kiyosaki. And I think this is what our schools should teach you. Instead of go to school, get a job, and get out of debt. Are you nuts? And save money. Are you nuts? It's crazy. And pay your taxes. Are you nuts? It's crazy, because the rich don't pay taxes, or they pay less taxes. So this is part of what you need to decide now, because if you keep doing what you're doing, and this is not according to me, this is according to the government and the tax department. So the tax department, which every country has taxes, they want to know what kind of income do you work for. So when you say to someone your age, or a child to the parent to the child, they say, go to school, get a job, they're working for this type of income. Earned income, as you can see from this diagram here, this is earned income here. And the first thing you pay is the highest taxes, because you worked for money.
Yes.
The government doesn't want you working for money. They punish you for that. They want you to hire employees or invest. Okay, so earned income is what they work for. The second is portfolio income. It's also called capital gains. So if I buy a house for, let's say, $100,000, I sell it for $200,000. The $100,000 is capital gains. If I buy a stock for $10 and sell it for $20, the $10 is the capital gains. This is the second highest taxed. So the tax breaks that President Trump is working on today is primarily for these guys here. So they're doctors, lawyers, highly educated people, and they have stocks. Most of these guys don't have stocks of the working class. They have a 401k, but they don't get the break. But these guys, if you're active in stocks and that kind of stuff, of flipping houses, you get a break. But what the really rich work for is passive income. And passive income, for me, I have a business. Whether I work or not, money comes in. And you've seen me. I'm not here, am I?
No, never.
Never. I've earned the right not to be here. Real estate, I get every year. My wife and I, Kim, we add more real estate. Also, we have commodity income from oil wells and things like this. Even the stock price of oil doesn't go up and down and all this, we still get this. But this is another type of income. This here, I won't get into, is called phantom income. It's taxes I don't pay, so this is a little bit beyond most people's minds. But let's say my tax bill is $100,000. By doing what the government wants here, the government may give me a $50,000 tax break. That means $50,000 in taxes I don't have to pay.
Wow.
So the $50,000, it didn't go to the government, it went back up here. So that's what financial education does. It teaches you about the financial statement, which is not taught in school. Again, they teach you FICO scores, which is really FIDO scores.
Exactly.
What you told, little Dougie.
Exactly.
Okay. And then for you at your age now, you want to know this. This is what they're teaching you to work for now. Ironically, when you save money and you have a 401k, this is the kind of income. So savings and 401ks are taxed the highest types of income. To me, it's stupid, but if you don't know any better, it's the saving money in, what do you call that, 401ks is good. In Canada, it's called RRSP. In Australia, it's called the superannuation. But this is what most people have because they went to school, they got a job. And then this is what the rich really have. It's passive. And it's because I'm an active investor. I don't buy this because this is passive investors. I am active and I'm professional in all of these areas. So I work for passive income, which means I'm not here. The check comes in, the checks come in every year. And you've seen Kim and I and your mother now, she's working on here. And so your mother's income keeps going up, your father's income keeps going up, and they don't have a job. That's what they did, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So any comments on this?
So like you said, our entire life we're taught to work for earned income as opposed to passive income and portfolio income. And we're never offered those classes in the university. But thanks to the financial education that I received with you and going to seminars and working at this company, I was able to learn about those types of income and what I want to do with my career and my life.
Correct.
You know, investing in real estate, things like that. You have to take outside of school classes for that. And so I think it's incredible because that is where you make majority of your money.
Well, if you didn't go to school.
Exactly.
I do recommend taking these classes first because you can get hammered really easy.
Oh, no, of course.
Yeah.
It's incredible that we have to go to outside sources instead of inside sources in the university to learn about these things, to learn about portfolio income, passive income.
And be a non-professional investor.
Exactly. And then all they have to do is worry about going to school, going to work, getting their paycheck. But at the same time, it's very risky because you have no control over your life.
None.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing about it, too, is that most people who are A students, they think they can just go out and do this one. It's possible, but it's like trying to be a pro golfer. You know, you don't take one class and one lesson and say, okay, I'm going to take on, you know, the professionals.
Mm-hmm.
It's years of work to get here. And financial education is practice, study, lessons, being a student, you know. So I spent a lot of time here, a lot of time. That was Rich Dad. You know, if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in there, it talks about Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's.
Yeah.
And, you know, people asked Ray Kroc, I said, what business is McDonald's? I mean, he asked the class, this is the University of Texas class, MBA program. I said, what business is McDonald's in? And everybody said, hamburgers. And he says, no, McDonald's is a real estate company.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is because they get passive income, they use debt, they pay no taxes. That's why McDonald's is a big company, whereas what most people do is they start, you know, mom and pop hamburger stand and they work really hard and pay earned income.
So I think it's a lot of years of hard work and many, many mistakes. And you also have to learn to lose the fear of making mistakes and of losing money.
Well, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
You know, it's only the academic types like my poor dad. They think if they memorize the right answer, that's all they need. You know, it's like the right answer for a golfer is hit the ball straight, keep it on in the fairway, putt in one. Okay, that's the right answer. Trouble is you can't do it.
Exactly.
And in the real world is what can you do? Deeds, not words. And our academic types who are running our government are just talk. They have no real world experience. Mm-hmm. And that is what's costing us the most money. We have A students running our government and our Federal Reserve Bank. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you understand now the rich don't work for money, but they work for different types of income.
Yes.
And you understand the government wants us to do this.
Yeah.
That's why they give us tax breaks. Before we go on to the next lesson for millennial money, My job was just to shake your head and not give you answers. What's going through your head now? What are you thinking?
I know I'm not going to get there tomorrow, but I know I have to make baby steps in order to be able to get financially educated and become where I want to be, where I don't rely on a paycheck anymore.
It depends if your parents gave you a working class DNA. You got to work hard for money. And that's one of the biggest traps there is. You want to work for the right type of income, but not for money.
Here with Robert Kiyosaki, we're filming a new segment called Millennial Money, and it's for all the millennials that want to apply the Rich Dad philosophy on their day-to-day basis. So Robert, what's the purpose of you doing this for millennials?
Well, because I'm concerned. You guys, I've said it several times during this series that I had it really easy. You know, I graduated from school. There was a lot of high-paying jobs. Stock market was going up. Real estate prices were really cheap. You can buy a condo for $18,000 on the beach in Maui. You know, today you don't do that because the government has mismanaged our economy. And so you guys, younger guys, you have to be 10 times smarter than me. So I'm willing to pass on what I know to you because what I see happening for you guys is, I hate to say this, but you guys are in trouble. And it's because not my generation, but the generation before is leaving a horrible economy for you. So if you're not, even if you go to college, it doesn't guarantee you'll do well. So this is what I see coming in the future. So the big thing for most millennials, they're going to say, they want to stay here, they want to stay here. And you know, I would start there. Become a professional investor. It's not easy, you got to study a lot. But this is what I see coming. Financial statement. It's the balance sheet. What I'm concerned about for the millennials, okay? So here we have M for millennials. It's a lot of you. But over here we have today, boom, baby boomers, me. And what's going to happen is that it's going to be the flow of people. You guys are going to flow over here, and you'll be producing the income to pay the taxes and all this. These guys are going to come over here. We're going to be the biggest liabilities you've ever seen. They estimate that, and nobody knows the real number, but the estimations are this bill for all the social programs, the welfare programs, all the Social Security, retirement plans, and all this is estimated to be $265 trillion. You guys are going to have to pay for that. So when old guys like me move over here and you guys take over the economy here, what's going to happen is, go up. You have to pay taxes to pay for these guys. So that's why when I speak to young people and all this, I kind of joke around a lot and things like this. But this is a massive, 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 massive social problem. You know, like if your mother and father had no money, what would you have to do? You have to pay for them, right?
Yeah.
Can you afford their health care right now?
I don't think so.
You know, like I cut my finger here 2 years ago. The bill was $34,000 for one stitch. $34,000. That's where this comes. They're estimating. They don't know how much this is going to be. Total, all the national debt and all this. And as we're talking, you know, they can't balance. They need to extend the budget to pay for our bills and all this. And it's only going to get worse. So when I speak to your generation, our generation had it really easy. We're going to cruise over here. You guys have had it pretty hard, and it's going to get worse, is my opinion. So that's why the idea of go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, put in a 401k, That was my generation. It didn't work for us, but you guys are going to try the same thing. Any comments for you?
So the 265 trillion, is that going to be taxed on us?
Somebody's going to pay for it. See, what they say the national debt is like 22 trillion or something like that. It's not. It's when you, this is called off-balance, this is off-balance sheet. When they say off-balance sheet accounting, this is not registered here. This is Social Security, Medicare, old age pensions, all the people my age who can't take care of themselves. Somebody's got to pay for them. You know, they claim it's only 26 trillion, but when you go off balance sheet, it's 10 times that. And most people, you don't know what you're talking about. I may not, but I think that's true. Okay. So the reason your generation, millennials, have to be smarter is you guys are just coming this way.
Yeah, definitely.
And some of you can't even find jobs. So to all my baby boomer friends, I said, well, what happens if these guys disappear? I think, well, don't tell me about it. Social Security take care of me. Well, who's going to pay for Social Security? Who's going to pay for Medicare? Who's going to pay for Medicaid? Who's going to pay for national defense? Who's going to pay for all the national debt? And that's why our school system, our government leaders have done a horrible, horrible, horrible job. They should be fired for incompetence, malpractice. So that's why the Rich Dad Company was started, 20-something years ago, is this is basic education on the B and the I side. E&S's don't need this, but you guys do. So that's why the Rich Dad Company was formed, is you have to understand this. And so the people who are, right, like I always talk about it, they're going to be E's, S's, B's, and I's. These guys are going to pay for it here. These guys are going to skate past it. The last Trump just passed that tax reform plan, or whatever it is. The tax benefits are permanent for these guys. It's temporary for these guys, employees and self-employed. So I'm going to pay less taxes. For about 10 years, their taxes will be lower, then they're going to raise them. I promise you. Because they got to pay for this. Any comments about why you need to be more financially savvy as a millennial?
As you mentioned, as big as the debt is going to be, I think us as millennials, the economy is not going to be the same as it is today. And we have to be prepared for the increase in taxes and everything else that comes with it. And so it's our responsibility to become financially educated and make sure that we don't make the same mistakes as baby boomers.
If I was a millennial, I definitely wouldn't want to be in E&S right now. Because the tax breaks, the advantages, the leverage, I can expand my means. Rather than living below me, I can expand my means pretty rapidly. And especially today with the internet and all this, you can do very well, very quickly, fast. But not if you're thinking like the old guys, like these guys. So that you have a very huge advantage here, but unfortunately these guys are in your way. Okay.
Yeah.
The comments?
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Good. And so that's why financial education with millennials is very important. That's why the Rich Dad Company, I'm grateful you're asking these questions so I can pass the message on.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you. Kiyosaki, and this is my friend's daughter here, Alex, and people love you here, Alex.
Oh,
they love you here. You bring spirit to the company. So, and your mom and dad are dear friends of mine, and it's been interesting to watch your mom and dad adopt the Rich Dad philosophy and become very, very rich, right?
I feel very, very grateful because I had a unique perspective of how I could see the transformation and transition from the before and after the Rich Dad philosophy.
What was it like before with your mom and dad?
Well, life was a drastic change from how we live today. My mom was a real estate agent, and I remember she got really upset once because you told her she worked for tips. And she realized after that she really was working for tips. And I grew up with a nanny because my mom was out from morning to night, and my dad owned his company, so a P.O. Box International company, and he was gone from 4 in the morning until very late at night. And basically the only days I truly cherished with my family was Sundays. So that was like a sacred day for us because it was the only time we saw my parents. and they were very hardworking. We never, nothing was ever missing. My dad was spinning his wheels with his business. So as my mom's showing this multi-million-dollar home, she sees the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and she thought it must be here for a reason. The owners of the house read this book, so it must be something that attracts wealth. And so she went to the bookstore, she bought it, and she gave it to my dad. And from there, he became stuck on the Rich Dad philosophy. He read it within an hour. After that, he retired, sold his company, and he started investing. And then my mom began to do the same thing. After you told her she worked for tips, she started her own investments in multifamilies. And after that, our life changed drastically, from the education that we received to the spirituality of everything and just spending time together.
What I say here is this. All your real estate agents, stockbrokers, financial planners, and all that, you guys all work for tips. You know, if you sell a property in America as a real estate agent, you get 6%. And I said to your mom, I said, I tip my waiter 20%. Who's more valuable, real estate agent or a waiter? And she got upset. What do you mean I work for tips? But that's the S mentality.
Yeah.
You know, they don't build businesses. And then like most new investors, they run out of money. So now she uses other people's money.
Yeah, exactly.
And now she's an infinite return. And for those who are watching, an infinite return means you have zero money in the deal. So when these financial planners are telling you get 8%, try infinite. Try infinite. 8% is for chumps, man.
Yeah.
Big difference. And pay no tax on top of it. That's the I quadrant, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If the market crashes, are you afraid?
No, they're actually really happy.
And what are some of your friends doing?
So I do have a couple of friends that follow the traditional educational system and the 401k and the traditional way of life. And that is the majority, sadly. But then I have another group of friends that's a select few that are following the same path as I am towards financial freedom and investing in their financial education.
All you young people, I want to give you a word of advice here on marriage. The biggest lie ever told is, and they lived happily ever after. There is no such thing. It is a lie, right?
No, I don't know about that, Robert.
The easiest thing is get a job, climb the corporate ladder, and invest in a 401k.
Yeah.
That's where most people are at, and they go and they watch football or play golf on weekends.
Yeah.
That's their choice. I mean, it's a good life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my game, though. So today you have most of these people who have a financial plan, and they want you to give them their money. You know, put your money in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, and savings. Okay, you know. And most of that money is gone anyway, as we talked about earlier. The last 2 years of most people's lives, all that money disappears anyway. So what's the end game for Kim and I here? And for Kim and I, our end game is the end financial plan is this money goes into what's called a CRT, a charitable remainder trust. This charitable remainder trust then means the government can't tax me. That's the reason. And, you know, and you got to study taxes. The only people that pay taxes are these people here because they're not doing what the government wants. Over here, I'm a partner with the government. The reason I get a tax break here is because I provide jobs. These guys don't provide jobs. I get a tax break here because I invest in real estate. Most people have a house. I have thousands of houses, and we provide housing. I provide oil. You know, so I get the tax breaks because the government's my partner. If you go to school and get a job over here, you will pay this tax. And you should, because you're not doing what the government wants. I do what the government wants. So at the end of our lives here, we're going to put it here into a CRT. And the goal is the government can't tax that money. And it goes out. And for Kim and I, our goal is every year we're going to give $100 million to charity every year. Most people will be broke at the end of their lives. So we're going to give all this money back. And for into perpetuity, charities that we support, like I'm very much into the oceans, so I support Greenpeace. Kim loves animals, so she supports animals. We support all these things that we can't do because we're working our businesses. So we give our money back to charities. We give it to Boys and Girls Clubs and other charities all over the world. $100 million for a lot of people, for a guy like Trump, not a lot of money. For us, it's a lot of money. So $100 million a year is our goal. Today, we're probably, if I died and Kim died today, it would probably be $25 million a year. But I have probably another 10 years, 20 years to live. So this is the ultimate goal. Kim has probably another 30 years. So can we make this? Most likely. And if we don't make it, we're still at 25 million today. But that's the end game here. We just give it back. And because we give it back, the government doesn't tax us. That's why I love the tax law. That's why we have Tom Wheelwright, who wrote the book Tax-Free Wealth and all this. So the reason we study so hard is so we can just give it back, but most of these people can't do that. And that's why the government gives us tax breaks. $100 million is a lot of money. I know most people, that's nothing. But that's a lot of money. That means we have to have several billion in assets to do that. And we're close. That's the game, to give it back and pay no tax and get rich and have fun.
Yeah.
Any comments on that?
I think a lot of wealthy people get a bad reputation, and it's because people have this misconception that the rich are greedy. But in reality, you're leaving behind a legacy. You have money being donated even after you pass, and on top of that, you give seminars to teach financial education when you don't need to do that. So I think it is a legacy that you're leaving behind, and the only greedy are the poor because they have nothing to give, nothing to provide for others.
Well, what happens is when a person dies, the government takes it. In legal terms, it's called probate. So let's say you have $1 million, they take it, and they spend it.
Yeah.
I don't want the government to spend my money. Okay. So I'll get this money, and I can say, I want for 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, I want these charities or these types of charities to get my money. So the government doesn't care as long as I'm donating it back. So I'm not being greedy, I'm just taking control of my money, my cash flow. Again, cash flow is the word. So my cash flows back to charities forever, from the grave. I'm lying in my grave going, oh, I hope they're spending that money well,
So I think it has a lot to do with your being and your purpose in life. Both you and Kim have a strong mission as to why you pursue everything you do.
Right. So we all join together as a team here to serve God's purpose. The same thing when I donate to Boys and Girls Clubs or to Greenpeace or to Panthera, which is an organization that saves lions and tigers and all that, That's my purpose, to give back. And if you do that, government will give you tax breaks. And people who are greedy pay taxes. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh? Yeah. And that takes financial education.
It does.
Okay. So as a young person, you have some ideas. I don't know, 10 lessons we've done. Have you got a better idea on how you're going to guide your life now?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I love being here because I know that I'm working, but I feel like I'm in a seminar learning with you and learning all the values that you're trying to instill in all these millennials. I'm here learning just like they're going to be learning when they watch these videos.
So anyway, for those who are watching Millennial Money, thank you. We'll probably do a few more as things change because the economy is changing.
Yeah.
And we'll do more of it. But those are kind of the basics. It's a way, as a young person, you can steer your life in probably more options to your life than just climbing the corporate ladder and putting your money in a 401k. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's boring. It's boring. So I want to thank Alex because we started the Rich Dad in 1997, and you were born in?
Yeah, in 1997.
So she was born when Kim and I founded this company, and it's very impressive to have you working with us. You are the spirit of the company now, and you will carry on the spirit for years and years to come. So thank you for being part of our team.
Thank you, Robert, for giving me this amazing opportunity and learning from you hand by hand and also being able to give this message to the millennials.
Saki, I'm here with Alexandra, and we're talking about millennials and money. And so today we're going to be talking more about my favorite subject, is why I hated school so much. Because as you know, we learn little to nothing in school, but in fact, you'll find out that going to school actually diminishes your ability to get rich. So that goes counter to what everybody tells you. Go to school, get a job, and you'll make money. And that worked probably 1,000 years ago. Not working today. It didn't work for me. I have a college degree, but I learned nothing about money. And what I've learned, I had to learn on my own from my rich dad. So we're going to be talking about school, making mistakes, and we're going to talk to you about cheating. Okay?
My favorite.
Yes, subject. Okay, so in school, what do you have to do to cheat?
I'd say finding a smart person in class and looking at their paper.
You see, when I was in school, the definition of cheating was I asked a smart girl like you. And that's how I got through school. I always sat next to the smartest girl in my class. And the teachers kept throwing me out because they said, you're cheating. But I'd go to my rich dad and he goes, that's not cheating, that's cooperation. And so I have my poor dad who would have said I was cheating, and my rich dad said I was cooperating. So that's Robert Kiyosaki, and we're here for another exciting and important and financial education. Money for millennials or millennials and their money. Because as you and I know, our school teaches us this about money.
Yeah.
And it really kind of screws people up because they go out of school and they start doing the thing we talked about, go to school and get a job, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first two lessons. So we have Alexandra here. She is a daughter of our dear friends, Fernando and Cecilia Gonzalez. And Alexandra was born the same year that Rich Dad was born.
Yeah.
And again, for those who may not know, my rich dad was my best friend's father. My poor dad was an academic straight A student. I wasn't. I was a D, F, and C student on a good day. But my rich dad never finished school. So he had a completely different point of view. It's not right or wrong, but rich dad was an entrepreneur, and poor dad was a school teacher, head of education, PhD, Stanford, University of Chicago North, all the credentials for academics. So at the age of 9 in Hilo, Hawaii, my rich dad started teaching me because I asked the question of my teacher, my fourth grade teacher, said, what do we learn about money? I said, well, we don't teach you about money. And I thought that was really stupid. Why go to school, get a job, but know nothing about money? So with that, this was his lesson number 1, and the rich don't work for money. So when I show you that, what goes through your head?
Because I already know your philosophy, it makes a lot of sense to me.
But for somebody watching this for the first time, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Because you go to school to get a job so you can work for money, right?
That's the purpose of life, yeah.
Right. To be a slave for money.
Exactly.
And work for idiots like me.
Exactly.
But anyway, my way of teaching is to first put doubt in your brain to challenge your belief systems. And then maybe you can choose new beliefs or keep up with old beliefs, right? So when you think about working for money, what comes through your head?
I think about the time that I worked at the bank and I was working paycheck to paycheck and I wasn't exposed to the financial education that you provide me with. And so it was kind of sad that I couldn't afford the things that I wanted to do. And I was just in this cycle of paying my bills and going to work, and
Correct.
That's it.
Do you have friends who haven't found the good job even though they went to school?
So I have many friends that have graduated and they're told that they're going to go to school and they're going to find a job, and they find themselves without anything. So many of them have found a job, and many of them have also not found a job.
Yeah, the irony is, when I left school in the 60s, there was plenty of jobs. But the world has changed, and our schools haven't. And so they're still making this innate promise of get a job. And I was very fortunate when I graduated in '69. We're the highest paid graduates in the world. My classmates were making about $120,000 to $150,000 a year. That's not much money today, but 1969, that was a lot of money. But naturally, as young guys do, we spent every penny of it.
Yeah.
So I had my rich dad's lesson, the rich don't work for money, in my head. I said, okay, I'm making all this money. I have a secure job, but what's beyond that? And that's where education comes in. So if I could explain this to you for the rest of the millennial lessons, it's really going to be on this theme here, because financial education is about not working for money. Like one of the first questions when I finally realized what my rich dad was saying, I said, well, when do I never need a paycheck again? See, my goal wasn't, go to the moon or, cure cancer. My job was, when would I never need a paycheck again? Because as long as you need a paycheck, be it from an employer or like my poor dad, he was so afraid of losing his government pension.
Yeah.
And I'm going, Jesus, what a way to run your life. Your pension? So my old man kind of got fired. He lost his pension. It was the most frightening thing in the world to him. He had no pension. Then it was Social Security, which is even worse.
Yeah.
So that's why my goal when I was about your age, a little older, around 25, I said, my goal is to never need a paycheck again from anybody, even the government. I don't want any Medicare, Social Security, or whatever. When I was a military pilot, I said, oh, you got to get the military pilot pension. I said, you do, but I'm not going to. And just because of this here, that was the difference. Because I never wanted to work for money to need a paycheck. So the next few lessons in Millennial Money, you'll find out what I do work for. So for right now, just let me go to the lesson here. So this comes from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and these are some of the distinctions. It was the advantage I had at age 9, because I knew what I wanted to work for. And this here, in simple terms, is called a financial statement. In school, they teach you to get a FICO score. FICO is BS. All it means, how good are you paying your bills? That's all FICO means, okay? Should be the FIDO score. Good dog. So this is what your banker wants to see. So when I was 9 years old, playing Monopoly with my rich dad, this is the lesson that's not included in Monopoly, but rich dad taught me. And fundamentally, the problem that most people make, they go to school to get a job, and they work here. So this is the poor, middle class, and these guys. And we're going to talk about later, your first line item expense is taxes. Just recently, President Trump said he had a tax cut. He didn't have a tax cut for these guys. As you know, the rules are always written for the rich, okay? I didn't make the rules. You can get angry at me, but these are the rules. The rich make the rules. The golden rule. He who has a gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
So the tax cut went to people here. That's where it goes to. You'll learn more about this later on. But this is what I work for. So what I work for, number one, is I'm an entrepreneur. I want businesses. I have multiple businesses. And I don't work in them, as you know, because you work here. You never see me, do you?
No.
Because I don't work for a paycheck.
Exactly.
Next is real estate. And real estate is good for many things which we'll go into. But number one is debt. I use a lot of debt to buy real estate, and I pay no taxes. That's the relationship there. The next is paper. And that's savings, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and that stuff. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't save money. I don't have any of that. But this is what most people have: go to school, get a job, get a 401k, and save money. Loser. Okay. I'm doing that just to upset you guys, because maybe you'll start to think. Because I didn't make the rules. I'm just telling you these are the rules. These people pay the highest taxes, and they work the hardest. And the last are commodities. 4 different asset classes. So commodities are, number one is gold, silver, oil, land, water, food. So this is what I work for. When I left school, rather than working for a paycheck,
cơm đi con. Ăn cơm con.